Hey everybody, John here, obviously. Am I recording? Yes, I am. Alright. I'm going to talk about two different things that at first are going to seem to be unrelated, but I'm going to make the case that they are very closely related. The two things are central banks, central currency control. That's the first thing. And the second thing is censorship by large technology platforms such as Facebook, Google, Twitter, and so on, as well as censorship by mainstream media. Now let's talk about the second of those two things, censorship. YouTube is quite obviously engaging in broad, widespread censorship of anybody who disagrees with the, what would you say, the mainstream approved political narrative. And if you are a producer of content and you do anything other than agree, if you are critical of SJWs, if you're critical of BLM or Antifa or the Democratic Party, or you're critical of people lighting courthouses on fire, or if you're critical of political corruption, if in Canada, if you're critical of the present Prime Minister, who is just unbelievably fraudulent, despicable and corrupt and thieving and just absolutely shameful, and seems to have appointed a fixer as the head of the RCMP so that they won't recommend charges to the Crown prosecution and so on. That's the kind of thing that gets you shut down. It gets you demonetized, it gets you deranked, people get unsubscribed. So my channel, right, I have like 22,000 subscribers and this will have 100 views, right? And I'm not the only one. I mean, I'm like a small-time crank on YouTube, but much bigger and more mainstream and more intelligent and educated people than me get routinely demonetized and shut down and blanked out. And it's always, oopsie, we don't know what happened. It must have been some technical glitch. Haha, if it always runs in one direction. So YouTube is obviously censorious, and they overtly censor and they covertly censor. And you know, there's a story written by the New York Post, or published by the New York Post, talking about Hunter Biden, the son of Joe Biden, involvement in Ukraine money laundering or some sort of scam bezzling. And that's been widely censored on the tech platforms. You can't tweet it, and it gets blocked by, oh, this is an unsafe link if you post it on YouTube and so on. And it's obvious, naked, blatant, overt censorship of political discussion, which is the one thing that should never be censored, is political discussion, because that's how people, manage their lives. That's how nations interact with one another. You're not supposed to censor that. If you stop people from talking, you leave them only violence as an outlet for their frustrations. That's why free speech is so damned important. But we should learn what is coming by looking at the broad, pervasive, and systematic censorship that is common now on most of the technology platforms. In fact, all of the big technology platforms, there was collusion by the payment processors a year and a half or 2 years ago to shut down and block any of the new upstart payment companies because they didn't want people to be able to migrate their revenue-seeking social commentary or political commentary that was not in line with political doctrine, acceptable political doctrine. They wanted to shut down anybody so that nobody could monetize outside of the usual channels. Therefore, they can demonetize anybody they want to. This should inform us. This should wake everybody up when it comes to creation of a centralized or a digital currency, which is the second of the two topics that I suggested at the beginning of this video that seem to be unrelated. Monetary policy, the central banking. I'm going to say that we should learn from censorship on the big tech platforms and censorship and bias in broadcast media of what is going to come with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the U.S. Federal Reserve, who have this week both made a series of announcements which, now I'm not an expert, but seem to me to suggest that the IMF wants to create a one world currency that is a centrally controlled digital currency, and the Federal Reserve wants to replace the US dollar or transition the US dollar into being a digital currency, not a cryptocurrency in the sense of Bitcoin being a distributed cryptocurrency that nobody controls. Rather, the Federal Reserve wants to create a centrally controlled digital or cryptocurrency, but not distribute it, meaning they will control it. And this is a little bit of a science fiction nightmare scenario. If, by the way, I'm not an expert, so I could be grossly misunderstanding this, and if you think you can correct me, please do. I am not an expert. I am just reporting what I've been able to glean from listening to a bunch of other people who are much more expert, much more educated than me. But the creation, the migration of currency to a centrally controlled digital currency suggests to me a couple of things that can happen. One is that your dollars, or mine, or that guy, each of our income, all my money that's in my bank account, once that money is mine, it's mine. Like, nobody can take it from me. I mean, obviously, if I were engaged in criminal enterprises, the government could close my bank account or something like that. But my political views don't impact my banking. Whatever political speech I might engage in, whatever opinions I might have, whoever I might say is a crook, like my prime minister is a crook, that's not going to impact my banking, because my dollars, which are Canadian dollars, are not digital dollars in the sense of what is about to come. The Federal Reserve and the International Monetary Fund wants to turn dollars into digital dollars, meaning all the dollars that I own, or all the dollars that you own, are attached to you. They're connected to you always, so that what you spend your money on is trackable, and what you do as an individual, as a politically active person, you engage in editorial writing, or you comment on politics or whatever, and most people don't, but those people who do, there can be a consequence that goes past just your YouTube channel getting demonetized or shut down. What if they can turn off your money? What if they can devalue your money so that your dollars are worth some fraction of one rather than 1 per 1? That's what we should expect to happen when we migrate to a centrally controlled digital currency. Not because that's possible technologically, which it would be, but because that's what's already happened on the platforms like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and so on. You get shut down when you say things that are politically unpalatable. They don't control your money, though. But what happens when, in addition to controlling the platform that you're broadcasting on, like Twitter or Facebook or YouTube or whatever, or I can't even think of what the other ones are, they can also censor not just your broadcast, they can censor your money. That's what's coming. I'm not going to tell you what to do about it. I'm not going to tell you what the answer is. I'm just going to tell you that's what you should expect when there is a centrally controlled digital currency, which is the move that the IMF and the Federal Reserve have both signaled this week that they're going to be making. Buckle your seatbelt, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to get interesting, and it might be bad. Thanks a lot, and as always, have a lovely, lovely day. And special thanks to the people helping support the channel through Patreon and Subscribestar for the moment.